as I've stated previously, when I found it, it was on top of the ground. It was not embedded. Um, I saw no charred marks, no big indentations in the ground. In fact, it looks as if someone had taken it and set it in the spot.
A very strange thing happened in May of 1974 when a Florida man named Terry Betts found on his island property this curious metal sphere.
In the spring of 1974, a large brush fire spread across the property of Antoine and Jerry Betts. While assessing the damage, they came across something unusual: a polished metal sphere resting in the charred grass. This object will later be known as the Betts sphere or Betts orb. Their 21-year-old son, Terry Betts, picked it up and found it surprisingly heavy, despite being only 8 inches in diameter. The Betts family decided to take the sphere home, a choice that would significantly change their lives. The Betts family owned an 88-acre property in Fort George Island near Jacksonville, Florida, mostly used for timber cultivation. Antoine Betts was a marine engineer, his wife Jerry was an artist, and they had 6 children. Their home, a large mansion called The Castle, reflected their educated and well-off background. Fame or fortune wasn't their goal. The sphere they discovered measured just under 8 inches in diameter and weighed about 21 pounds. It had no visible seams, welds, or machine marks, just a few scuffs and a small triangle marking. At first, the sphere seemed unremarkable, so Terry placed it on his windowsill with other collectibles, but that changed quickly.
So Terry just puts it in a windowsill for a couple of weeks. Then one day, he has a friend over, and as he's playing the guitar, the sphere suddenly starts to come alive. It starts making humming sounds, and it seems to be responding to particular notes played by the guitar.
While Terry and a friend played guitar in his room, they heard a humming sound. When they stopped, the sound faded, only to return when they resumed. As Terry moved around the room while playing, he noticed that the sphere vibrated in response to his notes. Louder playing intensified the vibrations, and soon the sphere began to buzz, causing their dog to whine at the noise. Curious, Terry tapped the sphere with a hammer, and it produced a ringing sound. Fascinated, he took it to the living room to show his family. Setting it down briefly, the sphere began to move on its own, surprising everyone. What initially seemed like an ordinary object displayed some strange properties. The sphere responded to sound and touch and could move independently. When rolled on the floor, it would stop, vibrate, change direction, and sometimes roll back to whoever rolled it. It could roll for seconds, or as long as 12 minutes. Though the family speculated it could be a gyroscope, that didn't explain its peculiar behavior. To test it further, they placed the sphere on a glass-topped coffee table. Pushed, it would roll along the edges without falling off. When they tilted the table to let the sphere roll to the floor, it unexpectedly rolled uphill, as if avoiding the fall. Jerry, curious, shook it, and it reacted strongly. She later described it in the newspaper, saying, "If you shake the ball vigorously and then place it on the ground, it acts like a huge Mexican jumping bean, as if it's trying to get away." The Betts family noticed that the sphere also had a magnetic field, able to attract a paperclip, which could be removed easily at first. But as the sphere rolled around, the field grew stronger, until even a mayonnaise jar lid became stuck to it and couldn't be pried off. They speculated it might be solar-powered, as it grew more active in sunlight, emitting a low hum and a gentle vibration, and stayed warm for 3 days after being taken inside. A few days later, a family friend reached out to the Jacksonville Journal, prompting a visit from photographer Lon Anger. Initially doubtful, Anger changed his mind after observing the sphere's behavior. He described how it moved independently, rolling and shifting direction before returning to his feet. The article generated widespread interest, making the Betts sphere an instant sensation. Journalists from around the globe began calling, and the Bettses found it challenging to keep up with the flood of inquiries. Though initially hesitant, the Bettses eventually received a call from the U.S. military, expressing interest in examining the sphere. Jerry Betts initially declined, but concerns that the sphere could be unexploded ordnance led her to agree to a 2-week loan to the Navy, on the condition of a contract ensuring that if the sphere wasn't identified as military property, it would be returned. Navy scientists conducted several tests, confirming that the sphere measured exactly 7.96 inches in diameter and weighed 21.34 pounds. It was composed of a magnetic stainless steel alloy resistant to extreme heat and pressure, specifically stainless steel grade 431. The sphere was found to have 4 magnetic poles, 2 positive and 2 negative, with an unusual magnetic field pattern. However, X-ray attempts to examine its internal structure were unsuccessful. After 2 weeks, the Navy confirmed that the sphere was not government property and returned it to the Betzes. Upon its return, a Navy serviceman delivered the sphere along with a manila envelope containing X-rays. Despite previous claims that X-rays hadn't been effective, the images revealed the internal structure of the sphere and showed that something was inside. The X-rays revealed some fascinating details about the sphere. The outer shell was about half an inch thick, with multiple steel layers of varying densities inside. At the center, roughly the size of an apple, was a hollow space holding 3 smaller spheres connected by tiny wires. The question was how these parts got inside, as there was no visible hole or seam. Even Navy scientists were puzzled and wanted to drill into it, but Jerry Betts declined. With the sphere's unusual features, its reaction to sound, magnetic fields, and toughness, some speculated it could be extraterrestrial, possibly an alien listening device. Though the Betts family initially dismissed these ideas, the absence of other explanations made the alien theory seem plausible. The Navy determined that it wasn't an explosive, yet the mystery endured. Searching for answers, the Betzes sought help from scientists, whose findings only added to the mystery. Dr. Carl Williston from the Omega-1 Institute was the first to examine it. He detected radio waves and identified 4 magnetic poles, but the magnetic field pattern did not follow known laws of physics. Williston also observed the sphere moving independently across surfaces and verified that the exterior was stainless steel grade 431. He also found traces of an extremely dense, unknown element. However, doubts exist regarding Dr. Williston's credentials and whether the Omega-1 Institute is legitimate, with some suspecting he may have been a foreign operative. Dr. James Harder, an engineering professor and trusted advisor to the Betts family, conducted a further analysis of the sphere. He confirmed Williston's findings and noted that the internal spheres were made of a material with an atomic number of 140. This was especially significant because the highest naturally occurring atomic number is 92, which is uranium, and even synthetic elements with atomic numbers only go up to about 118. This discovery suggested that the material inside the sphere might not be from Earth, leading Dr. Harder to theorize that the sphere could be a damaged alien probe, or possibly an anti-gravity device. The next scientist to examine the sphere was Dr. J. Allen Hynek, an astronomer and professor recognized for his role as a UFO advisor to the U.S. Air Force on projects like Project Blue Book, which investigated UFOs between 1952 and 1969. Dr. Hynek confirmed previous scientists' findings and contributed his own expertise to the investigation. During this period of increased interest, the Betts family faced a disturbing event. A group of scientists arrived at their Jacksonville home, offering Jerry Betts $750,000 in cash for the sphere. Adjusted for inflation, this sum would be nearly $4 million today and could grow even higher in the future. Despite the tempting offer, Jerry turned them down, stating that the sphere was not for sale. Their behavior raised her suspicions, and after they left, the Betts family looked into their credentials. They found out that the scientists were actually imposters, leading them to suspect a possible foreign government connection. This discovery added to their concern for both their safety and the security of the sphere. In the 1970s, the National Enquirer announced a cash prize for proof of extraterrestrial life. Although the Enquirer was known for its sensationalist approach, the UFO panel they organized included reputable figures, such as Dr. J. Allen Hynek and Dr. James Harder, along with several Ph.D. holders, a former Supreme Court justice, and a former U.S. Attorney General. The Betts family sent Terry and the sphere to this event, hoping that with so many experts gathered, they might finally receive some answers. Dr. Hynek, after examining the sphere, concluded that it was man-made, though he couldn't account for its strange behavior, like rolling up a sheet of plexiglass from a standstill. When the idea of drilling into the sphere was discussed again, Dr. Harder warned that if the sphere contained material with an atomic number as high as 140, drilling could potentially trigger a hazardous reaction. Terry was at the Enquirer's office when he got an urgent call about an accident involving his mother. Unable to reach her by phone, he rushed home without the sphere, leaving it behind. When he arrived, he found his mother unharmed. Jerry urged Terry to go back and retrieve the sphere, but when he returned, the Inquirer staff were unhelpful, giving him the runaround and seeming to stall. Eventually, they told him that the sphere was no longer there. It had disappeared. The Inquirer finally admitted that the UFO panel had taken the sphere to New Orleans for further testing. Terry drove there, only to find the Navy guarding it. They informed him that testing was ongoing and that he couldn't approach it. Despite arguing that the sphere was his property, the Navy wouldn't let him near it. After a lot of back and forth, Terry was finally able to retrieve the sphere. On his way out, a few reporters asked if he would demonstrate the sphere's abilities. Terry agreed, but when he sat it down, it stayed completely still. No vibrations, no humming, no movement. Frustrated, he left, later learning from his sister that people, not reporters, had been waiting for him at the airport. Concerned, Terry drove straight home. Back in Florida, the family had the sphere examined and x-rayed again.
And after x-raying the sphere, they found out that it wasn't hollow, that there in fact were two spheres within that sphere.
This time, a seam appeared where there hadn't been one before, and the sphere no longer had 4 magnetic poles. The interior, which had contained 3 smaller spheres, was now filled with dust. Dr. Harder, suspicious of Dr. Hynek, warned the Betts family to be careful, suspecting Hynek might have been involved in replacing the sphere. Years later, after Dr. Hynek passed away, his son Paul revealed that their family possessed a silver sphere tied to a UFO case in Florida, which had supposedly been stolen by Dr. Hynek. While there's no concrete proof that Hynek took the sphere, it's notable that after he had access to it, the original sphere stopped working, and a similar sphere turned up at his home. The Betts family found the situation intense. They were constantly pursued by the media and believed that they were being followed by government agents, which put a significant strain on their lives. At one point, Jerry was even assaulted by someone posing as a repairman. This incident, along with ongoing media harassment and what the family believed were agents tailing them, led them to withdraw from public life. They sold their house, left the island, and decided against further interviews, writing books, or even making movies. They wanted no further involvement with the sphere. Today, Jerry runs a blog where she shares her artwork and personal stories, though she never mentions the Betts sphere.
But you have to ask yourself, what was this strange metallic sphere? What was it made of? How could it do all of the strange things that it was doing?
And so the mystery lingers. What exactly is the Betts sphere? Various theories have been proposed to explain the Betts sphere. One idea is that it could be a fallen satellite or a piece of space debris. Though this seems plausible, the theory encounters issues since no seams or connectors, typical of such technology, were found on the sphere. Another idea suggests it could be a Foo Fighter. During World War II, Allied pilots reported UFOs that followed their aircraft at high speeds, which they nicknamed Foo Fighters, a playful, meaningless term. A more speculative theory is that the sphere is an alien atomic weapon, possibly linked to the destruction of Atlantis. Supporters of this theory refer to ancient texts, such as the Mahabharata, which describes a weapon capable of producing a smoke and flame column as bright as 10,000 suns. A more practical explanation is that the Betts sphere was industrial equipment. Artist James Derling Jones claimed the sphere was a ball check valve he lost years earlier while collecting scrap metal for his sculptures. He explained it served as a flow regulator in large pipes and had fallen from the rack of his Volkswagen bus. This is the most widely accepted theory. However, this explanation has its issues. The only factory on the island, a paper mill, does use similar valve balls, but they typically weigh around 7 or 8 pounds, while the Betts sphere weighs 21 pounds. Additionally, the sphere was found a mile from the nearest road. While it reportedly could move on its own, a mile would be quite far for it to roll on its own. Some believe the sphere didn't move on its own at all. The Betts' home had uneven tile floors, and the perfectly balanced sphere could have simply been rolling around on the tiles. However, this wouldn't explain why it seemed to return to the person who initially rolled it. During the Navy's testing, they never saw it move on its own, although many others claimed they did. Robert Edwards, president of a local supply company, once showed a reporter a new stainless steel ball made by Bell Howell. It measured 8 inches across and weighed just over 21 pounds, the same as the Betts sphere. Edwards suggested it might have been a similar type of ball. However, the Betts family was financially well off and never tried to profit from the sphere. Even when the sphere became international news, the Betts family chose not to write books or to make any money from it. Today, the true nature of the Betts sphere remains a mystery. It was either taken by the Navy or by Dr. Hynek, and the exact details may never be confirmed. It's possible that this major scientific discovery is now lying forgotten in an old bag in someone's basement. The only way we may ever learn of the truth is if the current owner decides to come forward. The disappearance of the Betts sphere continues to stir speculation. Despite media attention and scientific analysis, concrete answers remain absent. Theories on its origin and purpose vary widely, with some suggesting it was an advanced industrial object that ended up in the Betts family's possession by accident, while others think it could have been experimental technology from a high-tech company or a government project. The sphere's reported ability to move on its own and its unusual magnetic qualities have led some to consider it a possible piece of alien technology. This theory is further supported by the sphere's unexplained features, like its flawless construction and the mysterious material found inside. These details resemble many accounts of UFO sightings and claims of alien artifacts. Neither the military nor the scientific communities have provided any clear explanations. The Navy's involvement, combined with the secrecy surrounding Dr. Hynek's later actions, have only added to the sphere's mystery. Dr. Hynek's role remains a subject of debate, with some suggesting he may have been involved in a cover-up or clandestine operations. This adds another layer to the sphere's history, connecting it with notable figures in UFO research and government secrecy. One of the most striking aspects of the Betts sphere is its effect on those people who encounter it. The sphere not only puzzled scientists, but also stirred both fear and curiosity among the public. The Betts family's decision to step out of the public eye reflects the pressure and scrutiny they experienced. Their choice to withdraw suggests that the experience was more than a simple scientific curiosity. It became a deeply personal ordeal. The scientific community's inability to explain the sphere, despite its unusual properties, reflects broader challenges in understanding unexplained phenomena. It highlights the limits of current scientific knowledge and the difficulties in studying objects that defy conventional explanations. Over time, the Betts sphere stands as a reminder of the mysteries that remain unsolved, even with our best efforts to understand them. And that wraps up the mystery of the Betts sphere. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share your theories in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and keep exploring the unknown.